What's good? It's the Screen Caution. Today I'm going to go over who do I think should have the main best odds of winning the men's Royal Rumble. I'm thinking about doing a women's video as well. Who do I think should be the main women who should have the best odds of winning the women's Rumble? Now these are mainly going to be the women that the men that I personally think should have the best odds of winning. Who I personally should think who should be the final four, the last people of the Rumble, who should be the main guys that people should consider, and the main people that I think are the best options of winning the men's Royal Rumble. If you like wrestling content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. But I'm going to jump straight into the video. The first person I'm going to mention is Cody Rhodes. I think Cody Rhodes has to be a contender. Now, as much as I don't want Cody to win, he's one of the better options. As much as we don't like it, as much as we probably don't want him to win another Rumble, him winning his third Rumble in 4 years, as much as we probably don't want to see it, he is one of the better options because he has history with CM Punk, history with Drew McIntyre. We could see a potential new matchup with CM Punk. I don't think they would go that route. I think they will probably just do a rematch with Drew McIntyre, but you could potentially add Randy Orton in the mix, Jacob Fatu. So it is a bit more interesting than just Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes because Jacob is feuding with Cody at the moment, so you could eventually make it into a triple threat. But I just don't think Cody Rhodes needs it, if I'm being honest. And plus, you probably could just give him the Elimination Chamber if you really want him to have a championship match at Mania that badly. Just make him win the Chamber. But you do make him win the Rumble. You could add Jacob. You could add Randy in the mix as well. But I just don't think with Cody's status or with him being a former world champion, him holding it as long as he did, he don't really need another run right now. I don't think he really needs the Rumble. I think we should give that to another person. If Cody was to win, I would be low-key mad because as much as I like Cody, he just doesn't need the Rumble, if I'm being honest. If he wins the Chamber, I wouldn't mind as much, but still, I just don't think he needs to win either to really get a championship opportunity due to him being Cody Rhodes of all people. But I do understand if they go that route due to him being the quarterback. They keep mentioning him being the quarterback of WWE. So I do understand if they go that route. I just think he's one of the last options, if I'm being honest. But he is one of the more realistic options, if I'm being honest. And throughout the video, I'm going from my least favorite to my most favorite, to the person I want the least to win, to the person I want the most. Who the person I want to win the most. So Cody is my least favorite, but I do understand if they do go this route, Cody Rhodes winning the Royal Rumble. The next person I have is Roman Reigns. Now, Roman Reigns is my current favorite wrestler, but if I'm being honest, I wouldn't mind him winning as much because I do think if he was to win, he would go after CM Punk. I don't think he would go after Drew McIntyre. I think he would go after Punk instead, if I'm being honest. Plus, I think it just makes more sense for him to go after CM Punk because the last interaction they had, he did mention that his championship would look better on him, but it wasn't sure if they was talking about Punk or they was talking about Cody. So I do think it makes more sense to go after CM Punk. And plus, that's a feud we haven't seen. That's a feud that people want to see. So I think it is an interesting narrative there. My only concern with Roman is that he's a part-timer and we don't know his schedule. That's the only concern, is that I do think he will be there for the Mania build, but if he ever was to win another championship, that's my only concern. Now, I wasn't, as critical as him being a part-timer when he was, champion, because I didn't mind him being a part-timer because every time he appeared, it felt special. And two, he had the Bloodline storyline, so it worked. He doesn't really have that now because the Bloodline storyline is basically dead at this point. It's not really a thing anymore. So he doesn't really have that to rely on. So it's like if he was to not be there, he would have to be there more consistently if he was to win the championship, if I'm being honest. So, but it would be interesting to see him either choose Drew or Punk because you have the history with Drew McIntyre, with him constantly screwing over Drew McIntyre multiple times. We could see probably finally a clean finish due to Roman being a babyface now. See the dynamics flip, see the roles flip now with Roman being a babyface, Drew being a heel. So you could play an interesting narrative, or you could go the route with CM Punk. They still have their history with the last WrestleMania match they had in that triple threat with Paul Heyman and all that. So it's a lot of interesting narratives. Plus, you can eventually involve Seth Rollins eventually back in the mix due to CM Punk and Roman, either one winning the World Heavyweight Championship or retaining the World Heavyweight Championship. Seth Rollins could eventually return and go after. You could play a lot of interesting narratives with Roman winning, so I wouldn't mind if Roman won. My only concern is that he is a part-timer, so that's why he's a bit lower on my list of who I would want to win the Royal Rumble for the men. The next guy I have is Seth Rollins. I think Seth Rollins won't be in this year's Royal Rumble, but if he is in a Rumble, I do think he has to be a favorite to win the Men's Royal Rumble, mainly because he already has a set storyline ready made from when he returns, which is CM Punk. CM Punk becoming World Heavyweight Champion, because with Seth Rollins getting injured, CM Punk was able to become World Heavyweight Champion because the main goal Seth Rollins had was to make sure CM Punk don't be World Champion, but due to him being injured, he couldn't prevent that. Then you have the story with the Vision. Braun Breaker is trying to go after CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. Seth Rollins could easily be inserted into that feud, easily can cost Braun Breaker. That could continue the story of Braun Breaker turning on Seth Rollins, because when Seth Rollins returns, he's going to be a babyface. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic having two baby faces potentially fight off for that World Championship. Potentially can make it a triple threat with Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins, CM Punk. Could potentially see them doing like a Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Bianca Belair situation from last year. So I can easily see them doing that. Or who knows? If you go after Drew McIntyre, they have history due to Drew McIntyre beating him at WrestleMania 40. They have history. You can still do the babyface heel dynamic as well as it was before. So you could go either way, but I do think he will go after Punk due to Braun Breaker going after CM Punk as well. Don't want Braun to become World Heavyweight Champion. I do think Seth Rollins is one of the more interesting scenarios. Plus, they can finally get that dream match. Well, they already had done the dream match multiple times, but the original dream match that they wanted was at Mania 40 with CM Punk and Seth Rollins. They could finally pull the trigger, finally have that match at Mania. So I actually like this a lot more than a lot of other people winning, if I'm being honest. I think this is one of the more slept on scenarios, if I'm being honest, but I do understand why people would want to see it, because Seth Rollins don't need the Rumble. He don't need it. But it would be cool seeing him win the Rumble and then eventually doing that CM Punk Seth Rollins feud, potentially ending the feud at Mania. I think it right to Seth, to be honest. I think it's one of the more interesting stories if Seth Rollins was to return, but I don't think he will. Now we're going to start moving on to who are my favorites, who are the main people I want to win the Rumble. The next person I'm going to speak of is Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker is someone that I have been extremely high on since his NXT days. Honestly, I think he should already be world champion. In my opinion, he should have won January 5th. I feel like Braun Breaker should have already been world champion. If I was booking, he would have already been world champion. I don't understand why we're waiting to pull the trigger, especially because they keep telling me that he's the next face of the company. If you're not going to pull the trigger, stop telling me he's the next face of the company. That's just how I feel. But Braun Breaker makes the most sense, if I'm being honest, especially if you want someone to go after CM Punk, because he's already feuding with Braun Breaker. They indefinitely suspended him. I think they just did that so that way we won't see him on TV for a bit, so we can just wait for him to make his debut at the Rumble. But also, too, I just think it's time. I think it's time for WWE to build some new stars, time for them to start building for the future, because you can't keep relying on the old guys. You can't keep relying on CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Roman, Cole. You can't. You gotta start building up new stars. You gotta start putting them in the main event scene, have them actually be threats in the main event, something different, because we can't keep relying on the old guys that eventually they're going to retire, and we're going to need new guys to step up. And I think it starts now. We got to start putting these new guys in these positions. If it don't work out, you can easily make him lose the title. It's not that big of a deal. But I think Braun Breaker's ready. He has everything you need. If I'm being honest, he's extremely over. And I think the story writes itself. Plus, when Seth Rollins returns, if he returns after WrestleMania, that's a perfect story right there for Braun Breaker. Going after a babyface Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins wants revenge. Braun Breaker is the World Heavyweight Champion. It works out perfectly in that scenario, in my opinion. I actually like this more than Seth Rollins going after CM Punk, if I'm being honest. So I think it works out perfectly. But either way, I'm cool if he doesn't win, because he could win the Chamber. I think you could make that a better case. But I think he's definitely one of the favorites for a Rumble, and he's damn near my favorite, if I'm being honest, if it wasn't for this other person I'm about to mention. Now, the person I want to win the Royal Rumble, the person I think makes the most sense to win the Rumble, is Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn has been long overdue for a world championship for so long, especially ever since his initial him being introduced into the bloodline. He has been long overdue. The Sami Zayn hate is really forced at this point. Very weird. It doesn't even make sense to me, to be honest. It doesn't. But Sami Zayn is long overdue. He has the perfect story. I think he has the best story, if I'm being honest. Him not being able to beat Drew McIntyre, him being able to not get the job done, him being the ultimate underdog. Now, it does look like he won't be winning the Rumble due to him having a match at the Royal Rumble for the WWE Undisputed Championship, which I don't mind, but he's going to lose that match because Drew McIntyre is not losing his first title defense. I just have a hard time believing in that. And plus, this makes Drew a more dominant heel, gives him more heel heat due to him being not favored, due to him being in a Saudi crowd. Now, they could do a thing where Sami loses earlier in the show and then wins the Rumble later in the show, which I would love. I just don't see WWE doing that. I just have a hard time believing they would do that, but I would hope that they do it because I think Sami Zayn is the best candidate. I think he has the best overall story, if I'm being honest, and I just think it's long overdue. Plus, we need something new. Now I know Sami Zayn is older, and I mentioned that they need to go younger, but it's a bit different. Sami Zayn has never been a world champion, and Sami Zayn is not consistently in the main event scene like other guys like Drew, Punk, and Cody. This will be a new guy technically in the main event outside of his stuff with the bloodline. Sami Zayn is typically not a main event guy. So it will be something new, something refreshing, and something different that we haven't seen. Plus, he's not like the other world champions. He's nothing like Drew, nothing like Cody, nothing like Roman, nothing like Punk. So it'll be something new and unique if I'm being honest. But overall, Sammy is my favorite. He is my guy that I want to win. I don't know if he's the favorite to win it because I can definitely see them going Braun Breaker. But nonetheless, Sammy is the guy that I will want to win the most. I think he makes the most sense. I think he has the most perfect story. And I just think he just fits the mold of what a natural Royal Rumble winner should be, which is a babyface underdog, in my opinion, going after the top heel. That's just me personally. But you guys let me know your overall thoughts and opinions. Let me know who you guys want to see win the Royal Rumble. Let me guys who you think will win the Royal Rumble. Let me know how you guys will book the Royal Rumble down in the comment section below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. But yeah, that's it.